Welcome to the Success Sensei podcast for anyone interested in success, happiness, and balance. We'll teach you how to be a black belt at life. And now, your host, former professional fighter, multiple world champion, entrepreneur, and investor, Robert Devane.
Bowing in, this is Roundhouse Rob, the Success Sensei, helping you to win at life one kick and punch at a time. Episode 260, Crime versus Legit. Welcome to the main event.
It's the Success Sensei podcast main event.
Crime versus legitimate business, or being legit. So turning to crime or, being legit as a way to get ahead. I have no doubt that this question has popped into most people's brains at some stage throughout their life when they try to assess their current situation and the possibility of, gaining the things that they want and getting ahead, basically. What is the best way to go? I think especially with young people, they may consider it more than people who are older, unless, you've been addicted to Breaking Bad. So speaking of Breaking Bad, I mean, there are so many true crime shows and movies glamorizing, a criminal lifestyle, the wealth that you could, of flashy and blingy and materialistic and, being feared and the respect and all of these things that it can glamorize. And I don't think that they're actually that close to reality, but sure, we'll get into it. Now, this episode, along with all the other episodes I do, maybe it will come across as virtue signaling, but that's not what I'm doing. Maybe it will come across as being judging or judgmental. I am literally only having a discussion. I can only really bring my side to the table, and hopefully my side is a side that you haven't listened to, especially if you've grown up in, a family or a community and you've only ever heard the one way. Hopefully, what I do is not completely give you a new way, but give you a train of thought to help you decide what is correct for you. There's many different circumstances for many different people. If somebody had absolutely no choice but to improve their life through, a life of crime, so wherever they were born, whatever the situation was, they had absolutely no choices, then very few of us would condemn that person. But if you have a choice, if you actually have a choice of being able to do things legitimately or else turning to crime, and you choose the life of crime, it's probably not the best path to go down. There's lots of different types of crime, by the way. So what are we talking about? Well, I suppose you can't talk about crime without the biggest one being drugs. So there's drugs is probably the one that's in my mind as I'm recording this, but there's so many different types of crime. Some of the criminal activity is actually ingenious. It takes so much time and effort and planning and smarts to pull off or to do or to come up with that it doesn't make sense that all of those positive attributes weren't directed into something legitimate, because it is as easy to make legal money as illegal money. Do you believe that? Do you not believe it? It is as easy to make legal money as illegal money. So legal money, by the way, is way more valuable than illegal money, because you can do what you want with it. You can lodge it, you can buy stuff. Illegal money, you can't. You've got all kinds of other factors. You could have a lot of illegal money and it's not worth, a way smaller amount of legal money or legitimate money, because I'm sure everyone's heard of money laundering. Everyone's heard of all kinds of things that, criminals have to go through to try to somewhat make the money legitimate that is illegal. And it's just hard. You don't have the freedom. You can't purchase the assets that you want to purchase. It's not straightforward. Yes, by the way, I hear some of you listeners saying, well, not all business is fully legit, and there can be criminal businesses, there can be shady business dealings, there can be illegal business dealings. Like businesses aren't, being a business entity in and of itself, some of those can be the worst criminals on the planet as well. Yes, but we're not gonna muddy up the discussion. We're going to talk about, as I said, criminal, whether it's an actual registered business or not. If it's taking part in criminal activity, we're talking about legitimate, actually fully legitimate business versus crime. What is it that entrepreneurs want, by the way? You're already going to know the answer, because it's the same thing that you probably want as well. If you do a big survey, entrepreneurs, and business people, it's not the money. What does the money represent? It represents freedom. They want financial freedom. They want time freedom. They want to be able to do what they want to do when they want to do it, and not be restricted by time or be restricted by funds. So for the majority of people out there, freedom is what they're looking for. Now you tell me, and you answer yourself the question, do you think you get more or less freedom if you're in the crime world? What do you think? What's your answer to that? Young people not realizing that they're also putting, their loved ones, their present loved ones, and their future loved ones and future children's lives at risk by getting involved in something right now. So young people especially, it was probably in my mind when I'm recording this episode, are the ones that are impressionable and easier to lead into a life of crime earlier on. And the person that you are when you're younger isn't your future self, obviously, but you can't imagine your future self. And while you might be reckless and not care about your own life, it's crazy to think that you're not going to have people in your life that you wouldn't want them to be involved in that lifestyle. Specifically, as I said, getting a partner or having children who, depending on what direction you go right now, it could affect them and greatly affect them in the future and put them at risk. It all boils down to mindset a lot of the time. And some people are so frustrated that they feel that business isn't a legitimate option for them. Maybe they feel that, they're not clever enough, which is absolutely crazy, because business success isn't necessarily based on cleverness or intelligence. There are many people who get the headlines for being intelligent and clever, but there's many really strong businesses that are literally just set up through hard work ethic. So intelligence isn't at the end of the day, if you provide a service that a lot of people want to avail of, it doesn't matter whether it's highbrow. It doesn't matter if it's just think of many things. A lot of people weren't interested in being in the waste removal business, because they thought it was beneath them, or they thought it was low class, or they thought it wasn't intelligent. There are many extremely rich people made as a result of the waste removal business. So keep that in mind. It's not about being super, not that people in that business aren't super clever, because you have to be super clever to put the systems in place, etc., etc. But you don't initially have to have all these smarts to be able to set up a business. There's many different types of business. Many people think that, maybe business is a fixed game. I mean, we've talked about it before. We've tried to put it to rest where people say the rich get richer. In other words, there's a glass ceiling and there's no chance for people who are, who come from a more impoverished background to be able to attain wealth. But if you listen to any of the rags to riches story, they are just that, rags to riches. And the majority of high net worth individuals didn't inherit it. They made it, and they came from poorer backgrounds. So, telling yourself that it's a fixed game is reducing your ability to actually give it a shot. It's reducing your confidence, or reducing your motivation. So it is all mindset. Business is for you, for me, for everybody. And there's many different levels of business, and there's many different types of business. The allure of bling and flash and materialism and lifestyle, again, projected by the shows and the movies. They only really show one side of it. And if that's all somebody who's impressionable sees, especially in their local community, it can be very easy to be swayed and to put a foot wrong. Speaking of put a foot wrong, it's so easy for it to happen, that it's not this black or white issue. There's so many grey areas. So I'll give you an example. When we talk about crime and how people get involved in crime, somebody who's recreationally taking drugs, say somebody is taking an ounce of something, right? We'll say an ounce of cocaine. So maybe then after a while, it's not rocket science to think, well, if I purchase 2 ounces and I manage to sell 1 ounce myself, I get my recreational ounce paid for. And bam, just like that, within a short space of time, you are now a drug dealer. So it can work out as quickly as that, as easy as that. You may not identify as that, but that is how it starts. There's so many different avenues into crime, but that is a really, really common one. So look, don't be swayed by the glamour portrayed. There's plenty of glamour in business if you want there to be so. I mean, the majority of business people are very unassuming, again, I know it's being projected to you through the media. The high net worth individuals, the really, really 0.01% successful people, but the majority of millionaires are like the millionaire next door. They're still struggling day to day. They know their future is financially secure, but they live modestly, they live normally, they can purchase stuff if flashy items if they choose to, but a lot of the time they choose to spend stuff on things that are more important, like travel. Again, back to the freedom, spending more time with family. If you're going to build up something over a long period of time, you may as well build something that you are proud of, something that you love, and maybe something that you'll want to pass on to somebody that you love. It's very hard to like or to love yourself if you are doing things that are morally and legally wrong, or if they're resulting in the harm of others. Now, if you don't love yourself, if you can't even bring yourself to like yourself because, you're involved in stuff, as I said, that's morally and legally wrong or harming other people, then by not loving yourself, by not even liking yourself, it does mean that you could have a very hard life ahead of you. If you want to have control over your life, not to have to look over your shoulder, if you want to not have paranoia, fear, self-loathing, lack of control, anger, frustration, sadness, and all these other negative things are not basically bring them into your life. But if you want to be able to manage all of those things as much as possible, then if you imagine your future self, I'm guessing that everyone that's thinking about their future is imagining a brighter future than the position that you're in now, regardless of what your position you're in now. I imagine that you are imagining a brighter and a happier future for yourself. That is the motivation for most people. So if you want a brighter future for yourself, if you want a happier future for yourself, then you definitely want to not do things that are going to, bring in, as I said, paranoia, fear, self-loathing, lack of control, anger, frustration, sadness, or all of these other negative emotions and attributes into your life. You want to try to inhibit that as much as possible. Now, how do you start that? Well, your past is your past, so there's nothing that you can do to change that. Your past is your past, but your present, if you can make your present scenario happier, it will make your future self happier. You'll be on the right path. Now, I hope that it helps you think about certain things. I hope it helps you put certain things into perspective. I would love to hear your opinion on crime versus legit. I know people that have gone down the criminal route and then, tried to become legit. I have known people that have been legit and then, tried their hand at a bit of crime. I know people who have been crime all their life, intergenerational crime. And I know people who have, been involved in, I suppose, legitimate business, again, intergenerational. So I've met quite a lot of people from many different sides of the tracks, as I'm sure you have as well. And I would absolutely love to hear your opinion, or what you would say, I suppose specifically what you would say to younger people to help them make the decision as to the right direction for them to go when they're at that crucial formative stage in their life and they're mulling things over as to what's right and what's wrong and what's the way to get ahead and what should you do and how do you plan your future. What would you say to that person? What would you say to yourself? What would you say to your siblings? What would you say to your children when they're at that stage in life? I would love to hear your input and your opinion. Message me anytime through thesuccesssensei.com. Thank you for listening. I'm Roundhouse Rob, the Success Sensei. Life is a fight you can enjoy and win. Bowing out.
This has been the Success Sensei, fighting the winning fight. So add us, subscribe, like, and comment. Keep those hands up and keep moving forward.